I always knew at a young age that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I know I didn't necessarily want to work for anybody. I love building things. The thought or the concept of that I could think of something and it's in my brain, it's not tangible, and I could take the same thought and turn it into something tangible just fuels me.
What is the problem that you solve at the moment?
So I create bottom of funnel strategies for B2B SaaS companies. A lot of people don't do bottom of funnel content right. When you do it right, you get really, really good results. Top of funnel is very brand awareness. I'm going to get you as much traffic as I can. And agencies love to write that type of content because it looks sexy on the charts. At some point, that client is going to ask, how is this making us money?
So what does working with you look like? Lashay, welcome to What Makes You Tick. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to chop it up today.
Me too. This is going to be a very fun conversation. Lashay, what makes you tick?
Building. I love building things. The thought or the concept of that I could think of something and it's in my brain, it's not tangible, and I could take the same thought and turn it into something tangible just fuels me, and it always has. And I think as I grow as an entrepreneur and just see the power of the mind and what it can really do when you focus, and just really lock in, I think it never ceases to amaze me. So building is 100% what makes me tick.
What is the first thing that you remember building?
I could say the first thing that was on my mind and then I made it a tangible thing was a website, right? So
Okay.
I started building affiliate websites at maybe like 14, 15.
Okay.
And yeah, so when I started doing that, it was just really for fun, but I always knew at a young age that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I know I didn't necessarily want to work for anybody, because what fuels me is doing things that maybe not necessarily passionate about, but things I'm super interested in at the least, right?
Okay.
And I was very interested in marketing, although my brain didn't necessarily put together that the thing I was doing was marketing. To me, I was just building websites, and then these websites just happened to make money. The way they made money was through the Amazon Associates program, right? So I would just like build these websites and write content around them, and traffic would come to these websites and people would actually buy things, and I'd be like, whoa, the fact that I could, something that I put down on a web page can get somebody else somewhere in the world to say, I want to buy this thing. Psychology is what triggered it for me. Yeah.
And you said something that I'm intrigued about between passion and interest. What's the difference for you?
Passion is something that you would do even if you weren't getting paid for it. Interest is like, okay, I'm getting paid to do this thing. It's interesting. It keeps me engaged. I might not necessarily be absolutely passionate about it. I'm not going to start a foundation for it. I'm not going to do all these things, but it interests me to the point where I could like get up and do it every day to an extent. I can teach it to other people that want to know it. So I think like, yeah, the difference between passion and interest is just like, what would you do if you were not getting paid for it? Whatever that is, that's a passion.
That's your passion. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And what is the problem that you solve at the moment?
So I create bottom of funnel strategies for B2B SaaS companies. So for anybody that doesn't know what bottom of funnel is, it's really just a way to conceptualize somebody that's at the end of the buyer's journey, right? So a specific subsection of your market is in the market to try to find a solution like yours, right? So I create content for companies that helps them capture those people that are looking for a solution like theirs.
Can you give me some examples? You don't have to name clients or anything like that, but some
Sure.
white labeled examples of what that looks like practically.
So I specifically work on blog content. So if companies have blogs and they want their blogs to drive them inbound leads, I work on content more along the lines of like best this for that and, competitor alternatives. And I think really it's a couple different types of content, and I'm just giving you like modifiers. So for example, like if I were to work with a company and they
Mm.
were like, hey Lashay, we want to create a bottom of funnel strategy, those would be the type of search terms that I would find. And then when I found those search terms, I would create long form blog content around those terms. And again, the objective of this content is to be able to get the individual in and say, okay, this is how the product works, the capabilities solve the pain points that I have, and I think I want to move forward with a demo, or I want to talk to somebody from sales, or whatever that go to market motion is. My job is to be able to drive in potential prospects for that for your sales team.
And what's the impact that you usually see with the clients that you have? Like, how does that normally affect their business?
Lots of lead growth, lots of revenue growth.
Mm.
And I think it's because a lot of people don't do bottom of funnel content right. It's really like a 50-50 thing. It's like 50% of people don't do content right. The other 50% don't even know what it is. So it's like when you do it right, you get really, really good
Double.
results.
Yeah.
Yes.
Double
Yes.
bonus. Yeah.
Yes.
Because I think we all think about top of funnel, but I've never heard of bottom of funnel. I've not, like, you were the first person that I saw it with.
Yeah. It's like, so top of funnel is very, very common. And I think it's common because not just SEO agencies, but a lot of SEO agencies and agencies that say we'll get you inbound leads for your blog, or we'll grow your traffic rather from your blog. They focus on top of funnels because top of funnel is very brand awareness. I'm going to get you
Yes.
as much traffic as I can type of content. And agencies love to write that type of content because it looks sexy on the charts when you go in for your monthly reporting and you say, oh, well, traffic increased X amount this month. But what I find, and again, after me working across a ton of different agencies, is that at some point, that client is going to ask, how is this making us money? And a lot of times the agencies do not have the answer to that question. They'll
Mm.
say, well, that's further down the buyer's journey. We can't necessarily track that, but
Mm.
your traffic is going up. And the misconception is that just because my traffic goes up means that
Yeah.
my revenue is going to go up.
Yeah.
And it's not until companies experience this gap that they're like, okay, something's wrong here.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm. Because I think I heard someone talk about, vanity metrics versus sanity metrics, right?
Yes.
So, yes, my traffic's gone up by 1 million visitors, but most of those people were outside of your ICP, right? Those
Yes.
aren't people you actually want attention from. They were never going to buy your product, but now they know your website exists. Like, good job. But a sanity metric is how many qualified leads am I getting from the traffic? What's my, leads per 1,000 views or whatever it is.
Yes. Yes, 100%. And I think that's why I wanted to come into the market and kind of do my own consultancy around the thing that nobody wants to touch. Again, because attribution with content is difficult as it is.
Yes.
If you tell a company, you know what, not only am I going to help you with a blogging strategy, but I'm going to hold my feet to the fire. I'm going to let you know how many inbound leads comes in from the content that I create every month. And it's like, once I put that messaging out there, it just clicked and people were like, okay, nobody else has offered me this. What does it look like for us to do this? What type of results can I expect? And I think the cool thing about bottom of funnel, where it delineates from top of funnel, is like you don't need the volume of articles that people think you need.
Interesting.
Right? So first of all, the ROI on bottom of funnel articles compared to top of funnel is just astronomically different. On average, 6 bottom of funnel articles are usually enough for companies to start seeing traffic and, maybe like a lead or two here and there. It just starts to rev
Wow.
up versus you can write 50 to 100
Mm.
top of funnel articles. If the intent is not there for somebody to purchase something, you will not get a sale from that content.
Okay. So let's say that someone wants to start thinking about bottom of funnel content. What's one quick tip that you would give someone if they were thinking about that?
Make sure your team has alignment before you even start, right? So the problem that companies have with bottom of funnel content, and it's not necessarily a bottom of funnel problem, it's an internal communication problem. So typically companies have siloed communication where
Yes.
sales only talks to sales and
Yeah.
marketing only talks to marketing. And it's
Yeah.
like, in order to create content that is aligned, every team needs to be on the same page about what the product is, who it serves, and how it helps the prospect. Like, how does it fit contextually in their workflow? What are the benefits? What are the capabilities? And it's like, all of this information that you need sits within different teams. So you just talking to one team trying to extract this information isn't going to cut it. But again, the problem with a lot of companies is that the communication is siloed because, and this starts at the leadership level. I would never blame one marketer for this. Like, this is at the leadership level. If companies don't adopt a culture of cross-functional communication, this is where the problems start to arise. Yeah.
And then what next? Once they've
Once
aligned.
once you have that internal alignment, that's when you can start producing collateral, right? I focus on blog posts exclusively, but everything from webinars to YouTube videos to LinkedIn posts, whatever that go to market strategy is for your company, once you have that alignment, again, across the internal teams, when I say internal teams specifically, I mean sales, customer success, and product and marketing. Once those teams are aligned and you start creating that collateral, the collateral is going to be aligned too. And that's the great thing about alignment, is that it leaks over into all of your collateral. But the bad thing about misalignment is that it leaks over into all of your collateral.
How do you help people to understand what's important to be including in bottom of funnel? Because it feels like
Yeah.
it's a very different way of writing and a very different way of engaging with your audience.
It is a very different way of writing, right? So if we compare and contrast with top of funnel, somebody that's coming in top of funnel is not very aware of what their problem is just yet. Like, they're still trying to put a name to it. They're still trying to connect those dots, versus somebody that's bottom of funnel is very problem aware, very solution aware. It's like they know what they need. Now they're just looking for a specific company or product to be able to fulfill that need that they already know they have. So specifically, when I work with companies, I tell them, okay, we need to know what their pain points are because we need to speak to those. We need to know what the capabilities of the product are because then we need to match capabilities with their pain points to be able to make that internal connection of like, okay, I'm having this problem. This is the capability of the product that, this is how it solves my problem, right? They need to know the benefit of the pain point being solved, right? So it's like, okay, it's one thing to solve the pain point, but remind them, why do they need this solved again? Like, what's going to be the benefit of that? The features, right? It's like, how does the thing work? Like, what is the thing? So feature is more of what is the thing. Capability is more, how does it work specifically, right? So it's like, and again, those are some of the things I like to include in the bottom of funnel articles. But then again, going back to internal communication, it's like pain points comes from sales team, capabilities and the features come from the product team, the benefits come from the customer success team. It's like each bit of information comes from a different internal team. And I believe that's one of the reasons why bottom of funnel is so difficult for people to write is because they don't have access to these internal teams. Even more, if we want to get even deeper, specifically with marketing, marketers don't have access to internal subject matter experts. It's like,
No.
that's one of the biggest reasons I see why people can't, or it's very difficult for them to write bottom of funnel, because subject matter experts are just busy, and the people that are subject matter experts are not marketers, so they don't know how to like put
Write it
two
well.
and two together. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a knowledge gap there, and one person fills one side and the other person fills the other side. But the difficulty is getting these two people
Bring them two
together in order to be
together.
able to execute that. Yes.
Because, and that was one of the things that I wanted to ask you. What does working with you look like? So it's not just about, it sounds like it's not just about writing good blogs, right? There's so much more that goes into it. So what does working with you look like?
Funny that you say that, because the blog part is literally the last thing that we do. Where with a lot of agencies and other style companies that do this type of work, it's the first thing that they do, or they rush through the first part to get to the blog writing part. The most important thing that we do is making sure that internal communication is there. So when I was working for agencies, one of the things that I wish I had was a consolidated space to be able to learn about the product in depth, right? So like, who's buying it? What are some of our like biggest deals to date? What customers give us like a low support headache? What are the capabilities of the product? How do they work in tandem with, maybe integrations? You know what I mean? Like all these different things. And the problem was I had to go out and search and hunt for these things. And I'm like, if I just had a way to have this information all together. So rewinding real quick, context on this. I wanted to work for this content marketing agency really, really bad. And it hurt me so bad when I didn't make the cut. Luckily, one of the founders really took me under his wing and taught me about the editing process and how to get deep into that. He was very meticulous with editing. As annoying as it was at the time, it made me such a better strategist. Like, it was awesome. But not getting that job hurt so bad. I was like, I'm never going to miss out on another opportunity because I didn't know enough. So I was like, if I could change anything, what would I change? Like, what would be different? And I said, okay, I would have all of the information consolidated, because when I was working with the agency for the short period that I did, I would have to go out and hunt for this information. I have to go on YouTube. I'd have to go through their blog. I'd have to. So I said, okay, if I could consolidate all of this, what would that look like? So what I did was I built a Notion dashboard. And we could plug it somewhere in the show notes. It's totally free. If anybody wants to grab it, but it's a Notion dashboard and it has everything in there that you could possibly need to know in order to write bottom of funnel content, but not even just bottom of funnel content, just to get the teams aligned, period. And that's actually, so first of all, I built it for me, number one. Come to find out, a lot of other people found it valuable too. And then I just started giving away for free in exchange for people getting on my email list and things like that. But it was like, I started consulting companies in this same dashboard that I had created for free. And the biggest problem that I found, honestly, that's when I found out that the teams don't communicate. Because it would take us so long to get through this dashboard. I've since further productized this model, but in the beginning, maybe like a year and a half ago, I was taking people through this dashboard. It was just so difficult because this person would have to reach out to that person, and then this person would have to call this person, and because nobody had everything. So we would get everything down in this one dashboard, and then I would take this information and then extract certain what I call elements out of the information, right? So the pain points and the features and the benefits and all that stuff I was talking about before. And so for the record, I hate writing. Like,
you actually?
I hate it. It takes me so long to write, like a ridiculous amount of time. So I was like, so first of all, I'm like, how the hell am I going to start a consultancy around strategy? And I don't like writing. So first I had to figure that out. But because I didn't like writing, what I did was built frameworks for everything that I did.
Yeah.
This goes back to the affiliate marketing, because when I was building those sites, I had something called Elementor, and
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. In
yeah,
WordPress.
way back in the day. I had Elementor, and what I would do with Elementor is build these templates.
Mm,
And every time I wanted to create a new article, so at the time I was kind of doing e-commerce, I would do like what best shaving cream for whatever, you know what I mean?
yeah.
And it's like when I would do these articles, I would literally go to Elementor, press upload template, boom, done. So that stuck with me.
Mm,
Although this is B2B, it's much more nuanced and
yes.
complicated than
Yes.
e-commerce. That skill of being able to create templates and frameworks stuck with me. So I created this template, long form template that lets teams know, okay, you need to put the pain point here, the benefit
Mm,
there, the
mm,
feature here, here's how it connects to this pain point. And again, that was really to help me. Um, because I hate it, right? I hated starting from a blank page. It just
yeah.
froze me. So what I started doing was actually teaching companies how to fill in these frameworks, like people on the content team how to fill in these frameworks. And it was just a hit from there. It's like people loved it. We can get into a little bit further how I had to adjust and change that for late 2024, early this year,
Mm,
and how I will be doing it moving forward. But
mm,
yes, templates and frameworks are like how I run the business in now a much more productized fashion.
mm. Tell me a bit more about what you just said about how you're going to change it and what's the change that's coming.
Okay, so when I first started consulting in April of 2023, mind you, I had been doing the thing for like 10 years before that. Um, I I was giving the teams frameworks, and I would almost like a glorified editor where I would
Mm,
like tell them to come in, okay, fill this in, right?
mm,
I'm going to go behind you and we're going to edit together. I'm going to teach you how to do this.
mm.
Um, the problem is teams are bogged down, right?
Yes.
It's like they're super small. They don't have time to do this stuff. So while the process got great results, the tricky part about this was like finding somebody on the team that had time to actually execute on this stuff.
Mm.
So I started getting a lot of requests for like, do you do the writing? But remember,
Yeah.
I told you I
Can you
hate
just do it for
writing.
me?
So
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I don't do
No.
the writing. Blah, blah, blah. And like, I've lost so many deals by just telling people I do not do the writing.
Okay.
And this is where agencies had a one up on me, because even though the content was mediocre, they did the execution.
Yeah.
And it was like,
Yeah.
ah,
Mm,
I guess I'd rather go for like half-ass work than no work at all, right?
mm, mm.
So as of late 2024, I've switched the consultancy to completely done for you,
Wow.
whereas not only will I conduct the strategy on it and help with that positioning, at least when it comes to the blog post and how it should be positioned for the prospect, but
Mm,
actually filling in those frameworks. And I
mm,
think the good part about having a productized type of business or a model is it's easier to bring a subcontractor in to be able to tell them that, okay, this is the search term we're going after. Here's the positioning. Fill in
mm.
this framework. And then from there, what'll happen is they'll go back and forth with the team on any edits and anything like that. And then from there, we hit publish and we just keep repeating that process over and over and over.
Wow. That's amazing. And I think what it shows for me is that, some of what you have to be able to do as a founder is to adapt.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear a little bit more about your journey, firstly, to becoming a founder, and what have you learned? Because you've been doing it almost 2 years now, right? So what have you
Yes.
learned in those 2 years that you've been doing it?
Yeah. So when I first started, I had two jobs in January of 2023. I got let go from one in March of 2023 and got on a really big podcast in April of 2023. Shout out Dave Gearhart at Exit 5. And from there, it was just like a snowball effect. What
Mm,
happened was, and this is where the mistakes come in. I believe you can learn a lot from people's mistakes too, probably even more than you can from their successes. Um, the business started to have an upward trajectory around September of 2023. But what happened was I was afraid because I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to be a leader. My margins are good. Like, I don't know if I'm ready to bring in subcontractors and pay them to execute on this work. So what I did was at the end of, and I started to become more and more obsessed with the productized model. So what happened was, at the end of 2023, I started attempting to try to use AI to help me with this. Now, this is the problem. So first of all, I've seen a clear gap in the market for an AI content writing product. Now, hear me out. There's, I know people are probably like, oh God, but
Risky.
yeah, it's true. There's Jasper, there's Copy.ai, some other stuff out there. There's no AI product that can write bottom of funnel content. And so with that, I was like, okay, what if I put something together? So this thing, and I put a pin in it, it's still there. But it's called BOFU.ai. And it essentially was going to be the first AI writing copilot that can write bottom of funnel content, subjective content, not just objective. So I started trying to mix that with the advising, but the problem was I was leading with here's this AI thing, da 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 da, and people would be like, oh, I love it, but they wouldn't buy it. And I'm like, because the best way to me to validate if somebody really likes something is giving me money for it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like they told me how cool it was and how awesome it was. And I'm like, oh, why are they not buying it? And I didn't realize I was stepping into software territory until I lost a deal to Copy.ai. And I was like, why am I losing a deal to a software company? So what happened was I was trying to charge advising prices with software, and you just cannot do that. Right. So the biggest mistake I think that I made with that was not delineating between I have a SaaS product or I have a tech enabled service. And I was trying to do both. I was trying to have my cake and eat it too, but you cannot do both, right? You have to be one or the other. So what I've transitioned to, and again, this went on for months, I gave it a really good shot, right? Like, and again, it's the concept is there, the pieces are there. But what I did was I worked on this from September 23 until like June of 24. After September, I went to like an in-person marketing event. It was actually the Exit 5 in-person marketing event. And I just came back with so much clarity. I was like, because ego was in the way. I was like, I spent so much time on this thing, so much money on this thing. Like, I needed to work. I wanted to work, all these things, but it's like, that's not what people wanted. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta listen to your audience. I'm like, I'm never bigger than my audience.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, September shifted back to purely the consulting, still productized model, still in Notion. And things just started picking up again from there. Because again, during this period, I was not selling nearly as much. Again, because people weren't seeing the value. They're like, why am I going to pay her X amount of thousands per month when I could just go get Copy.ai for $100 a month, right? There was a value misalignment there. And what I'm going to do differently, I'm still going to use AI, but I'm just going to use it differently than everybody else uses it, right? So people use AI for scale. I want to use AI for nuance, right? So instead of just saying, how many articles can I get out in X amount of time, which is what most people do, I want to say, how can AI help lighten the burden internally for some teams, right? How can we help alignment within internal teams using AI? What if I put like some internal collateral into AI and said, summarize the value props of all of these things, give me some common value props? Could that help us find alignment quicker? You know what I mean? So just using AI for a different use case other than scale, right? But now I'm coming to the forefront, not necessarily leading with AI, but using AI to kind of help lift, what's the word I'm trying to describe? So using AI to kind of like do the heavy lifting on a lot of different things. And again, using it for nuance and not for scale. And then also understanding that at some point, maybe I'll dip into the SaaS thing again. I still very attracted to that, but understanding at least for now that I am not a SaaS company, I am a tech enabled service.
I think that's such an important distinction that you make. And I think that the people that are really going to actually win with AI are the people who know how to use AI for nuance, not just for scale. Because often people use it for scale, like you said, but they're just scaling crap, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
The
And
value. Yeah, go on.
if you think about how bad that is, if you are misaligned
Yep.
and using AI, it's like, and it's like, that's why companies, I've talked to so many different companies where they're like, oh, our traffic is dipping and all this other stuff, but we've been using AI. But it's like,
That's exactly why it's dipping.
that's why it's dipping. It's
Yeah.
like, it's how you're using it. Right.
Yes.
And again, and this is not me like throwing shots at Jasper. Well, kind of, but also with Jasper's positioning, like when they went to market with the whole AI thing, there was no particular use case. It was just like scale, 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 scale. But the problem is AI is not a use case. It's a modifier to the use case. So it's like you already need to have your primary use case of what you
Yes.
do.
Yes.
AI just adds some little seasoning on top of that. It's not the meal, it's the seasoning.
I think that's so true. And I think people are serving it up as the meal because they're saying,
Yes.
okay, I've done, 100 videos with AI or 100 blog posts or whatever it is, but are any of them actually any good? Do any of them actually resonate with your audience? Because sometimes it's not just about volume,
Yeah.
especially when you get into people paying like B2B, people are actually probably going to be paying quite a lot of money for what you're selling. So
Yes.
you need to make sure that there's that connect between the content that you're putting out and what people actually want and what they actually need.
Yes. Yeah. Spot on. And it's like, again, that's what I've been seeing. But anybody that has used AI, and I'm just like, it's not that you can't use it, it's the context in which you're using it. Yeah.
You have to be strategic with how you use AI. It's not just like a blunt thing that you just bash stuff with.
Yes. And I'm not one of those people that are like, oh, well, I hate AI. No, it's
No.
very good, right? It's good, right? But it's just like the AI bubble came and then it kind of burst. And then these companies were like dead in the water because what happened was, I think with Jasper's situation, it was more of like, okay, they were one of the first companies to market with the whole AI and content writing thing. But the problem is everybody has access to AI now. So now it's become commoditized. So if you
That's
did
who
not
can use
have,
it well.
yes,
Yes.
if you did not have a prior use case to coming out with the AI thing, it's like, now what's my value proposition? You know what I mean? Even if I don't know what their homepage looks like now, but the last time I looked at it, it was like revolutionize your. I'm like, you guys used AI to write the header for. I'm like, come on, dude. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's just some stuff. It's like we got to do better with this AI thing. We just got to do better.
100%.
A side note too, I do think companies or prospects will still go to blogs for information. Of course, I run my whole consultancy around it. But I think that now that AI is a thing, I think people are going to start using more sites like Reddit to get their information because they know that information came from an actual human being. Yeah.
For now, anyway. For now.
For now.
Yeah.
For now.
For now. So just as we close, what was the decision like for you in terms of becoming a founder?
Well, again, I've always had a very strong entrepreneurial spirit. I think the decision was not hard to make. I think taking that leap from in-house to consulting was a little bit tough. I did it quickly, but I still had to think very long and hard about that. What's interesting is that I was making a bit more from consulting than I was in-house. So for context, I left my full-time job in August of 2023. I had like doubled revenue at least by 2 months after that.
Yeah.
because I didn't have the bandwidth of that
Mm,
9 to
mm,
5 taking up
mm,
what I was doing.
mm,
So it's like, I'm not here to tell anybody like, oh, quit your job or anything like that. But it's like, if you have that momentum, make a very calculated decision
mm,
on if should I keep this job and try to balance two things? What'll
mm,
happen if I drop the full time and put all my energy into one? And
mm,
again, what happened for me is when I put that energy into one, that's when the growth kind of exploded. Um, and yeah, I would just say just again, make calculated
mm.
decisions. It wasn't easy for me, but I made the decision rather quickly.
Quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's always something I
Mm,
wanted to do. So I was like, you know what, let me just do it. And
mm,
luckily for me, it turned out to be the right thing to do. Yeah.
mm. And a lot of these things are like, they talk about one-way doors versus two-way doors, right?
Yes.
Often even things like leaving your job or trying something new, it's a two-way door, right? If you've been
Yeah.
working in industry for like 10 years plus, you're probably always going to be able to go back and get a job in that same thing anyway. So it's a
Right.
two-way door, so
Right.
the risk is there is definitely risk there, but it's a two-way door. You can always go back and try something else again.
I think to touch on that a little bit too, not only is it a two-way door, but sometimes it's a two-way door and when you walk back through that door, you're walking into a bigger house. So, yeah, yeah. So so what I mean by that is I had a hard ceiling when I was in house of 75K a year. Like I could not get past 75K a year no matter what I did.
Mm,
I got my biggest wins when I started consulting.
mm.
Um now if I were to ever go back in house, I would take nothing under 150. You know what I mean? And
I love that.
I didn't have that confidence before I started
Yes.
consulting. So
Wow.
sometimes even outside of the money aspect of it, it's just the audience you build from
Yes.
it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
so before I started consulting, I would see jobs where it's like 200 applicants. I'm like, what is the point of me even applying to this? Like, what makes me
Mm,
different? Now, if
mm,
I go in and see a job with 200 applicants, I feel like I have a solid chance at that, even
mm.
with 199 other applicants.
I love that, and it's so true because often the experience you get by leaving makes you're not the same person walking back through that door.
Oh no, no,
Mm,
totally
mm,
different. Much more confidence.
mm.
Just everything. Just you've learned so much. And of course, what I'm doing, I'm building in public, right? You have a public portfolio for companies to look at, for people to look at.
Yeah.
You're just coming back in, um, just with so much more posture than you left
Yes.
with.
Yes. I love that. We have a closing tradition on this podcast, and it is quick fire questions. So, Lashay, are you ready?
I am ready.
Good. If you could have your own podcast, who would be your first guest, dead or alive?
Mm. Ooh. Um, ooh. I don't know. Let me dial it into marketing. I would
Okay.
love to have April Dunford on as a first guest.
Okay.
Um, that would be setting the bar extremely high if I were able to get her on. Again, that's within marketing. If we're talking about just life, oh god. See, that's such a tough question. So many iconic people in the world.
Yeah.
I hate to go straight to athlete, but like I don't know, maybe like Serena or something.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
just to have somebody, you know what I mean? Somebody like
Yeah.
life changing on the pod. I would love to
Mm.
be able to have a convo with her for sure. Yeah.
Both very solid answers. What are you excited about in the next 12 months?
Scaling. And I
Okay.
never thought I would say that ever, ever, ever. But I'm very excited about it. I'm excited to see not how big I can take the business, it big in a
Mm,
sense of, oh, like how many people can I bring in
mm,
here? But like how much of a lifestyle business can I grow?
mm,
Right? Like
mm,
how much revenue, how much profit can
mm.
I make from this business while still keeping the team lean and still being able to enjoy life and still be able
Yes.
to, you know what I mean? Like that's
Yes.
what I'm excited about. I'm excited to potentially be able to help some other people on the same journey, or that want to think about doing the same things, people that have a deep expertise in something, and they're
Yes.
just like, I know I could be getting paid more money for this if I just put it on the open market. Like, just me and my best friend have something going in the future. I won't name it right now, she'll kill me, but
Okay.
where maybe we'd help minority business owners hit $1 million, because between us both, that's going to be a number we'll hit very soon. So that's something that could go down in the future. Again, still very murky. We don't know
Okay.
yet.
Yeah, that's vague enough. That's vague enough.
But to me, that would be a passion project. I would do it even if
Yeah.
I wasn't getting paid for it. Actually,
Amazing.
I'm not getting paid for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Amazing.
that, bringing it back to the passion thing, like,
Yeah.
yes, that's what I'm excited about. That's what fuels me.
Okay. And last question, what would you say to the 21-year-old version of yourself?
Oh, that's a great question. Focus, right? Me being so ambitious to the point where it's like, I would find this thing that I want to do. And in order to make this thing work, I would try to go do the other thing to make money for this thing. And then in order to make money for this thing, I would try to go do the other thing.
Yeah.
Focus. Like, dive deep into a specific field that you can tolerate. Maybe it's not a passion, but it's an interest. Dive deep in that, submerge and immerse yourself in that. And then work the jobs, go through the motions, understand that it's not going to be forever, but start holding on to those learnings and just stay focused. Like, I would literally tell myself, it's just a matter of time. Like, you got it. Just keep one foot in front of the other. When you walk forward with clear intentions, you'll start to find that things are put in place for you. And you probably have no idea how they got there, how it happened, but it's just walking with intention. Just keep going.
Amazing. Lashay, thank you so much for being on the podcast. This was great.
Thank you so much for having me. This was
Absolute pleasure.
One of the best I've had, for sure. Love this.
Well, and yeah, you're on a podcast tour, right? So you do a lot of podcasts.
Yes, I'm on tour right now. World tour.
Yeah, so that means a lot to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us for the What Makes You Tick podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening as much as I enjoyed having the conversation.
Yeah, there's so much value in hearing other people's career stories. And if you're someone focused on growing in your own career, check out our Growth Magnet newsletter on LinkedIn. We'll put a link in the show notes.
And we will see you on the next episode.